So, guys, it's an absolute pleasure to be here tonight with you all. And it's even more of an honor to come on straight after the Think Pink Foundation, who I truly believe are the most incredible people that we have in this world today. And it's something that aligns with me and how I believe about things in life and how we should be so productive and so positive in life. Because earlier this year also I lost my mother-in-law to cancer as well. And tonight, guys, I want to share with you something. I want to share with you a story of human ambition, my story. I started cutting hair when I was 15 years old, and I was really interested in hairstyles because I used to favor icons like David Beckham, and I used to want to copy hairstyles like his. So every time I went to the barbers, I used to get my hair cut and it would be cut too short. And it used to frustrate me. And the reason being is because I had no freedom of expression about how to communicate with the barber. And this led me into becoming very, very particular about my own haircut, my own hairstyle. So eventually, I started going to see my auntie, and she was a hairdresser. So with her being family, I was able to have a little bit more freedom of expression. So I was able to say to her, I want to keep this short, I want to keep this long. And eventually I got the kind of hairstyle that I wanted. And so I went into school, and my friends were starting to say to me, Josh, your hairstyle is really cool. Who cuts your hair? Where did you get that from? And of course, as I started getting interested into hair, I replied to them, well, I did, and I can do the same for you. So my brother had a pair of trimmers at home, and he used to put lines in his friend's hair. And I thought it was so cool, something so interesting about design and hair. So I took the trimmer from him and I went into school and I tried it on my friends. And when I went into school, I started putting these lines in my friend's hair, and eventually I got caught. So I had to go to the headmaster's office and hand in the trimmer. But not only was I in trouble by the headmaster, of course I went home and I was in trouble by my brother because I came home with no trimmer. So the next day I went to Argos and I bought a little £30 pack of clippers and scissors with a little plastic handle, and I started cutting hair. I really loved it, and I still do. And it's something that stimulates me, and I'm sure it's something that we can all share, the feeling that we can give to make someone look and feel fantastic. Now, I've got a question. Has anyone in here felt so passionate about something, it's kind of led them to frustration? Now, when that passion leads you to frustration, but by a limitation, not by yourself, but by others, what do you do? Well, here's what I did. I started cutting hair with my school friends, and eventually I went to college, done a sports science course, and every week we'd have football, and I'd start cutting hair in the changing room before the football match. And eventually I got into a barbering school, and I went and done barbering for a year. And upon the barbering school, we went to an exhibition. And that exhibition that I went to was in London. And that one was Salon International. And so when I went to Salon International, it was the first time I looked at someone on stage and I was like, wow, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that around the world. I was so in awe of the glamour that someone was sharing what they felt passionate for. And it was something that I really wanted to achieve. So when someone come off the stage, I kind of approached them very kindly and said, how do you get to do that? Because 10 years ago, there was no real social media. It was magazines and internet, and that was it. And I used to look at magazines. I used to look at Simon Shaw, Chris Foster of the barbering world, huge icons. I used to look at Mark Hayes, the international creative director of Sassoon, in the magazines and think, wow, these guys are really doing it, and I want to do it too. So this guy, he said to me, Josh, the only way that you're really going to get on stage and do things like this is, one, if you have a product company behind you that endorses you. Or two, you have a clipper company that endorses you. And I didn't have none of these things. Bearing in mind I was 18 at the time, I'd just come out of college, and I wasn't working in a barbershop at the time. So what I'd done is I eventually went on to do some hairdressing, and after completing hairdressing I went to a salon, and this big organization, I thought I could have a chance here with this big organization that could support me with their products and this, that and the other. I could have a good chance. Now, I was still heavily inspired and passionate about men's hair. So after a few years, 3 years to be exact, I kind of said to the people higher up, I said, why don't we do some shaving? Why don't we incorporate it into the company? And of course, they denied. They said, no, it's not really our thing. And so I left. 6 months later, they called me to say that they're going to open a men's salon. And I denied. So after that, I went into London and I started teaching at what's called the Hair Project. And something that I was really passionate about was giving. A life worth living is a life worth giving. And so I thought this might be the opportunity. I'm in London and I'm teaching, and they've asked me to build a men's curriculum where I can teach what I've been doing over the past few years. 3 months later, I was made redundant. They didn't have the time to be able to put the course on, even though I had completed the curriculum completely. What did I do? I went back to where it all started, and I was cutting hair in my grandmother's garage. I was doing 80, 90 haircuts a week, building my clientele. And eventually I decided to build my own brand. Something that I could build a team with, something that people would have the same vision that would align with myself. So after a while, 2014, opened up Menspire Salon, #1, with my best friend, Samuel Palmer. And from here we started getting noticed because we were putting our haircuts on Twitter and then eventually Instagram, and we were starting to build a reputation for doing good men's hair. And eventually we started doing education, and we were traveling up and down the country doing these one-day courses, teaching people how to think, not what to think. So there was this huge event in New York City in 2016 that I wanted to go to, and I kindly emailed them to say, is there any opportunity that I can come and do something on stage? And of course the reply is, sorry, there's no space. Okay, cool. So I continued working hard. I continued doing the haircuts. I continued showcasing what I love to do on Instagram and Twitter. And eventually, throughout the year, I started taking bookings. I was going to Europe, and eventually I went to America. I had a 4-week trip and tour to America. I went to San Francisco, I went to Portland, I went to LA, I went to Dallas, I went to Miami. And during this time, it was a very, very difficult time. And the reason being, something sad happened to me, which made me start to wonder. This happened. Please cue the video.
Vibrations of tremors that shook long ago. Tear holes in the fabric of all that we know. Can't survive with the secrets we have. All that we have is a lie. Hold the line till the thread comes undone. If you're thinking of letting
So I was in America for 4 weeks, 3 days to go, 1 show left. And sadly, my father passed away. And from this point, I realized that I could either die with him or I could live in his honor. And 2017, March, I went back to New York City, back to the same event. They called me up, they said, Josh, we've been seeing what you're doing. We'd love you to come to the main stage. So I got there, went to New York City, got to the event, and got told that actually I couldn't go on the main stage because my brand, the brand that I built, was in conflict with other brands that were showcasing at the event. And just as I was about to leave, my name got called. And this award goes to Josh Lamonaca, Educator of the Year, 2017, in New York City. And this is just a mere result of working hard and pure belief. Belief that I had what it takes to get to stage my passion around the world. And who was there? Who did I run and see at this event? The same person that I asked, how did you get on stage? And he asked me, Josh, I see you going all the way around the world. How do you do it? And this, guys, is a pure example of what we can do with belief and imagination. Because I've been working so hard, I've been keeping my head down, that the first time that I look up, I see Simon Shaw, I see Chris Foster in London. I'm working hard, my head's down. I look up, I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm prepping next to Mark Hayes. All of a sudden, I'm working hard, my head's down, and I look up, and I'm in Tribute, Belgium, a Salon experience. My experience. Thank you so much.